Hello, and welcome to another episode of the We Build Families podcast. This podcast is designed to create a space for us to create when to have conversations about everyday issues that Christians face that we may not have the space to do so in a normal church setting. I am Pastor B, your host, and I want to thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Of course, you can find us everywhere where podcasts are available, as well as you can also find us on YouTube as well by searching Brian Mitchell. All right. So today's topic is projection, the problem with projection. You know, so much of what we see on social media is based and revolves around people stating opinions as facts. We honestly interact with one another from our own personal point of reference. All of these think pieces that you see in the treatise of life, we share with one another. Now, the problem is whenever we convince ourselves that our prism of reality is the true reality and that other people must adapt or adjust to our reality. We debate whether or not it's proper to cut your grilled cheese diagonally or vertically. We debate whether or not it's tacky for you to go to a restaurant and eat the free bread. Crazy, right? The problem is that when we turn innocent conversations that are based for social engagement and in entertainment, the problem is whenever we take these innocent conversations and we turn them into personal attacks. We see a lot of this on many of the social media platforms, whether you are on Twitter, which I am, a Twitter person, or Facebook, IG, whatever it is. We see so much of this, and I've asked the question plenty of times, what in the world made you go there? Why did you take such an innocent topic and turn it into a life of death? I'm going to see you on these virtual streets type of a situation. Because one thing that I've heard in a lot of church circles is the idea of haters, right? I asked myself this question. I was like, are haters real or are they figments of our imagination? So many times we talk about the exploits and attitudes of people that we see, and we swear up and down that they are thinking about us so intensely to the point that they see us, they see the lives that we post, and they take it upon themselves to discredit everything that we do. We think that every supposed post of shady intent is directed toward us. Since when were we ever that important? Why are we so grand to believe that every word of dishonor or even opposing belief is a jab at us? I found that the primary reason for this false sense of importance is based on projection. You hear this term a lot, right? Projection, projection, projection. What exactly is it? Well, according to healthline.com, projection is taking unwanted emotions or traits you don't like about yourself and applying them to someone else. It's a mechanism of defense, right? It's a place of refuge that we run to whenever we don't want to look ourselves in the mirror. All right. So I wanted to look at a verse of scripture. All right. Matthew chapter 7. And just kind of break it down a little bit and see how it can apply to the issue of projection. Okay. So verse 1 and 2, it says, do not judge others, and you will not be judged. For you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. All right. The one thing that you see here is that there's a cause and effect, right? There is a there's an underlying reason behind everything. Now, in these verse two verses, the word judge here means to consider yourself better than, right? To analyze a situation and to compare your status, so to speak, to the status of someone else. And then based upon that assessment, you typically see yourself in higher light. It's very rare that whenever we are judging a situation, that we see ourselves worse than the person that we're judging. It's very rare. It almost never happens because we step into a position that we're not assigned to, right? The word simply says, do not judge, right? Do not put yourself in a mental space to where you see yourself better than other people, all right? Judging others feeds your ego. It inflates your pride until you become full of yourself and you implode, right? It's a no-win situation, right? So even if I think that I am doing a good thing by vocalizing my assessment of someone else's situation, 9 times out of 10, that situation is not going to benefit anyone involved. All right. I'm going to put myself in a position that 9 times out of 10, I'm going to embarrass myself because I don't know everything that's happening. Then the other person isn't going to receive anything that I'm saying because they know from the jump that you're out of pocket, right? So, what's the benefit of judging someone if neither person improves, if neither person grows, if neither person um, receives the perceived information that's needed to address the situation, right? One thing or one current event that this is kind of highlighted is the Tabitha Brown versus Wendy Williams situation. Um, by the time you hear this, it's probably close to being a week old. But I thought it was so enlightening that I really wanted to talk about it. So, for those of you who may not know who Tabitha Brown is a um, social media content creator. She's an influencer, and her primary target audience was initially helping people choose a vegan lifestyle, show vegan options, and she has such a calming, soothing, motherly type of a voice and vibe that people are just kind of drawn to her personality. And she really does encourage people. She really does help people to change their minds about how they view their view what they eat, view how they approach life, and all of that, right? Um, and so she recently made a post that she had promised her husband that if you give me 5 years, that I'm going to achieve all of the goals that I've set when it comes to acting and all of that. Now, the 5 years end up being 15 years, right? But she has now, over the last, I'd say, 2 years, blown up so much to the point that she now is financially able to support her husband. Now, her husband has many great dreams of helping people, right? But because Tab didn't really have the financial stability at the time, he just did what he needed to do to make sure that the family was taken care of, right? And so she basically says, "Hey, I am able to retire my husband. He's able to come off of the necessary job. Now he's able to pursue the goals that he really, really wants to do." And so Wendy Williams, which is a talk show host, she pretty much said that, you know, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. He's going to leave you. He's going to treat you bad. You guys are going to, the situation is basically going to be worse than what you're thinking that it is. And so this is an outside person who admits that she doesn't know really who Tab is. So you're going into a situation that you don't have all of the information, but yet you're making this grand assessment. Um, and so it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would a person who doesn't have any insight on someone else's situation make such a bold claim? And honestly, it's because however you feel about your current situation, we typically we make blanket statements for any other situation that appears to be similar, that appears to be going in a similar direction. We'll project our feelings, our outcomes in our lives, even how we feel about the mistakes that we've made, and we'll lash out and apply that to other people. Anytime you lend your voice to a situation that doesn't involve you, you're normally projecting your life circumstances onto a situation you deem to be better, right? Um, Again, Tab has blown up over these last 2 years. I think she won the N, NCAA or NAACP um, social media award, right? She even beat Kev on stage, right? Which, if you follow me, y'all know how I am a huge supporter of Kev. But she has done so much in these last 2 years, and I can imagine that if you're in that same space and you don't see the value of your own lane, then somebody who you think has gone past you and is popular and is making such great strides, right? That you are jealous, that you're not really trying to give them the proper due that they are. So sometimes we can call ourselves investigators and there's no badge anywhere, no training, right? We take it upon ourselves to investigate situations that we're not qualified for, right? And so that's where we get into trouble. That's where we um, put ourselves in situations that those who are doing the work, we have to address the haters. And honestly, the way that Tab addressed this Wendy Williams situation was so graceful. It was so church motherly, um, how they can get you together without saying any bad words. That's pretty much what happened. Um, so, yeah, man, we got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing that because there's a phrase that you hear all the time, and I had like a different point of view on it. So, the phrase is misery loves company. And forever, I always associated that with external people, right? Other people, that those who are miserable in the world, they want other people to be just as miserable as they are. However, many times when I am miserable and I don't like myself and I don't like my current situation and I don't like how other people who were in my current situation have come out of similar situations, and I'm still looking, quote unquote, from the outside in because I'm miserable. I want other people to feel just as miserable as I am, right? And so then we do whatever it takes. we insert ourselves in conversations and situations that don't require any of our intelligence so that we can let people know and bring them, quote unquote, to our emotional level so that we don't feel that we're by ourselves, right? You've seen that, highlighted over the last, you know, 12 months or so, how many people, the people who were, marching in Charlottesville, right? The white supremacists and the alt right, they were basically saying, you will not replace us. I don't know how they felt like they were being replaced, but they viewed that their dominance was being threatened, that their position in this country was being threatened. And we, as African Americans, we, as people of color, we've never tried to take anything away from anybody. We're just wanting you to acknowledge that we deserve a seat at the table. You can sit here, but I need you to pull up a chair for me. I need you to join this table, put your table and my table together so that we both can eat. And like I mentioned earlier, many people who align themselves with their way of thinking view themselves in a higher degree than others. And it's just not right. It's just not right. That, you see yourselves as more important without any real basis of thinking that way. Okay. So, although misery loves company, understand that you are misery sometimes too. All right. Don't always be looking outside for that. All right. So, back to Matthew 7. Verse 3 through 5 says it like this. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye, when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite. First, get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. The speck that's in our eyes blurs our vision. All right. So, because I have this internal situation that I am not wanting to deal with, then all of my viewpoints, all of my perception is through the lens of this situation that lingers and lingers and lingers. It's a small root that now has grown to the point to where it's impacting all of my limbs. And the most important limb that we have, the most important body part when it comes to progression, is our vision, right? And so now my perception of the situation is skewed because I can't see clearly, because I have this speck. Now, again, those of us who wear glasses, right? We can look through glasses and our entire vision is skewed by something that's very, very, very small, right? Oftentimes in our minds, the situation that we are ignoring is a huge boulder. But in reality, all it is a small speck. It doesn't take the amount of effort that we believe it does to remove it out of our lives because our perception is skewed. All right. It's a small speck. All right. Now, we are a danger to ourselves and others whenever we walk with blurred vision. All right. We treat men as trees, as inanimate objects who have no feelings, no ideas. Oftentimes, anything that you view as inanimate, we throw away because we devalue them, right? So don't see the world through your lens of hurt. Just don't do it, man. Um, get your eyes checked, right? Um, for years, and when I say we, I'm speaking as the church as a whole, as society in general, right? I think everybody can find some place of fault in this next statement, including myself. For years, we've tried to heal and help people from a place of blurred vision. We think what we see on the surface is the real issue, but it's not, right? And that's the danger of blurred vision. That's the danger of driving along with a speck in your eye, unable to properly analyze and adapt to the danger that's ahead, right? There are dangers in this world. There are challenges. There are issues in this world that God has called us as believers to address. However, if we can't correctly identify them, we do more harm than good. And the ails of this world get worse and worse. If I can't identify that a spade is a spade and I call it a diamond, it doesn't matter how loud and how strong my voice is declaring that the issue is a diamond. In reality, the world knows that it's a spade. Everybody else knows that it's a spade, but yet I'm seeing it and I am treating it like it's a diamond, and it never is fixed. It's never restored. It's never corrected because I am viewing a situation from the wrong point of view. All right. Um, One of the biggest ails in the Western church, as well as really the church worldwide, but I know for sure in America, is racism and division, right? How can we cure racism in the world outside of the church if we ignore the same malady in our own home, right? Um, the worst kind of hypocrite is one that is a hero in the street and a zero at home. One that views the external mission greater than the house, than the issues that are going on inside of those that you are familiar with, the ones that you smell like, pastors, right? Pastors should smell like their sheep. They should be familiar with the concerns and the ails and the issues and the day to day situations that the sheep go through. It does you no good to go to a different city and address those issues while your own house is burning down, right? So we should just address and have the difficult conversations so that we can get these specks out of our own eyes. Because at the end of this text, it says, first get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. Because it's very possible that your friend has this huge, well, actually, no, that's not what the word says. The word says that what's in your friend's eye is a speck. But we see that speck as a log because we haven't addressed the speck that's in our own eyes. All right. Like I mentioned earlier, we see the issues of the world many times much larger and much more difficult because we're looking through the wrong lens, because we are um, ill equipped and not wanting to address our own ails, our own issues, our own concerns, right? The warts that the world can see, but we're trying to ignore. All right. So, projection. Why do we project? Why do we fail to see ourselves the way that we should and point the blame and finger at other people? Well, I know two reasons for sure. One is fears, right? Here's an example. Men, when our spouses confront us with areas that they'd like to see us change or improve, don't change the subject and start pointing out what our spouses aren't doing. Sit in the moment, hear them out, be willing to analyze everything that's said, right? Don't mentally check out. Don't wait until they finish saying what they're saying so you can point out again what they're not doing, right? Because again, there's no fruit being produced in this conversation because everybody is trying to blame everybody, all right? Okay, secondly, from fears, we have our insecurities, right? We are more comfortable seeing the negative in other people than identifying the negative in areas of opportunity in ourselves, right? If if in your home you own more spotlights than mirrors, you need to go back to the store and exchange those spotlights for mirrors. All right, we need to see ourselves properly, right? Um, Whenever we try to point out the issues and ails of the world first, then we're not equipped to handle it, man. We never are. All right. So people who feel inferior and have low self-esteem can also fall into the habit of projecting their own feelings about not being good enough onto others. Right. That kind of goes back to the misery loves company line. Is that because I don't see myself as valuable, I get uptight when other people say that they're valuable. Have you ever felt some type of way whenever people are celebrating themselves, whenever they are living it up on their birthdays, right? Whenever they are going to places that you've always wanted to go, right? Um, Trust me, them people not thinking about you. They're just living their own life, enjoying their the life that they have, and it's so important that we let people live, right? Because my negative comment is not going to change them people from living their life. If it bothers you that much, ask them, hey, how did you get this? How did you do this? Because I want to experience the same thing you're experiencing, right? But we're never humble enough to ask those questions. We would rather hate from a distance rather than instead of engaging in improving our own situation. All right. So that's really all I have today. Right. Let's look at our own specs, our own issues, and before we try to call out anybody else on their dirt, let's make sure that we are diligent in cleaning up our own homes and washing away any dirt from our own lives. All right. Because once we do that, then whatever charge that we've been given from God to point out specks and to, um, show the world themselves, we can do that more effectively. And then we can have two people with vision instead of both people being blind. All right. So thank you guys again for listening to today's episode. Of course, this episode can be found everywhere where podcasts are available. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Of course, this video also can be found on our YouTube page as well. Make sure that you follow me on TikTok. I'll add the link in the description so that you can follow me there. I'm just trying to get more accustomed to TikTok with some of the clips from the episodes are going to be found there as well. One other thing is our website, the rimmediagroup.com, is up and it's live now. Of course, this t-shirt is available for purchase, as well as some merch from my wife's fitness line, Determined to Be a Better Me. She also has some other encouraging words there in helping you maintain your fitness journey. All right. So check out the website. Let us know how we're doing and go get some merch as well. All right. So until next week, thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Have a great one.